What's up, everyone? Welcome to What the Fuck Wednesday. This week we have some of the most fucked up matchmaking for UFC debuts. To start it off, we'll talk about who they matched up with Chris Cyborg. Because two poor girls
Damn.
have had to make their debut against this woman, and it just went very bad for them.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
first off was Tanya Evinger. She came in fighting against Chris Cyborg for the vacant championship. What was it?
145?
145. For the
Yeah.
vacant 145 championship title. This was her debut. There is no reason. It wasn't short notice. It wasn't last minute. They just booked this girl against Chris Cyborg for her UFC debut. She managed to go into the third round against her, but she was just getting beat up during this fight.
Yeah.
She was trying to grapple her, and that's kind of what saved her, just shooting for the takedowns and stuff and just surviving and,
Yeah.
being able to hold her own for a little bit. But man, that third round came around and she just got dropped. She got beat up. There was no reason that they did
Oh,
this to her.
no. Legitimately, the only reason they did this to her was because of GDR refusing to fight Cyborg. It just adamantly, which is why it was for the vacant
Bro,
title.
I
Which
was just gonna say, yeah, she
sure.
got stripped for it. Like, she
Yeah,
did
exactly.
not want that fight. And
No, it's all because she popped one time for steroids and then had a bogus USADA violation because they ruled that it was not an intentional ingestion of what she had popped for. So,
regardless, though, that was just an excuse. She was scared.
yes.
And I mean, I
Oh,
get
yeah,
it.
no, I like
Chris is
she.
scary, but she was just making excuses. She just didn't want to
I
fight her.
feel like JDR really did not want to fight her, but that was also the reason Ronda Rousey never fought Cyborg because they were trying to book that fight for a long time outside of the UFC, and Ronda was always like, "No, she's a drug cheat," and so. But I mean, Tanya Abinger coming in was on a 7 fight unbeaten streak, 6 wins, one no contest. Uh, and I mean, her last 2 fights before that were against Yana at the time, Yana Kundaskaya. Uh, yeah, just coming in to fight Chris Cyborg though in your debut match is rough for the
Right.
title, which could possibly go 5 rounds. Rough,
But it's just
and
funny because bringing up Yana, she's the second person to make her debut against, at the time, champion Chris Cyborg.
yeah,
It's
but
just, why are you
the
doing this to these girls?
I, like yeah, like she was at the time, if I'm looking at this right, she would have been 18-6. No, yeah, 18-6 coming into the UFC with one no contest. Like the
Who?
featherweight division, that would be Tony Avinger.
Tanya. Okay, okay, okay.
18-6, one no contest. Not a lot of not a lot of featherweight talent now. So back then, when it was a new division, especially in the UFC, not a lot of hype around it in terms of like getting people into the UFC for it, and just not a lot of talent out there to bring in. Like they were legitimately, and
Just
even still
trying their
now,
best. I
trying their
understand it to
best.
that point,
And
but still, it's just,
yeah,
that shit is,
well,
it's
the only
fucked
reason
up.
like even they brought in Tanya was because like what they had really no other option, because their next option in their head was probably like Holly Holm, but it's like Holly Holm was at that point what, on a 4 fight losing streak.
Hey, Holly Holm was their next
And
fight after Tanya.
I mean, yeah, but I think Holly Holm got a win after, before she fought Cyborg again, if I'm recalling correctly. Because
Yeah, she
yeah,
lost to
she
Misha
beat Betch
Tate,
Correia,
Valentina Germain, then beat, yeah.
then lost to Cyborg, beat Megan, lost to. Man, they really do love giving. I keep forgetting how much they love giving Holly Holm title shots. Jesus fucking Christ. But yeah, no, fucking. The fact that two people had to make their debut against Chris Cyborg in the UFC, and I mean,
Right, because it was just 1 year later after Tanya that she went to go fight Yana Nas Santos, and first round just
yeah,
ground and pound TKO'd her.
Was
Just
it?
it was quick.
It
It
wasn't
was
even a
easy.
year. Yeah, no, it was a little over a year at that point, a little under a year, but because I forgot about Holly Holm fight in between, because it was only 3 months after she had beat Holly Holm, and it's just like coming in was what 10-1. Am I reading that right? Yeah, 10-3 at the time. Coming into that fight, again, not that experienced, especially for that, and had already lost to Tanya Evinger before that, which I know MMA math doesn't work, but goddamn, did Yana get smashed by Chris Cyborg?
Absolutely smashed.
Just, Cyborg did what Cyborg does best. Just
It was
completely
easy, but
smashed her.
it was sad for that to be her debut. Like, it's
Yeah, no,
like,
I
imagine
could not imagine.
making your UFC debut and it's literally a 5 round fight for a championship belt.
Like, back in the day, like when it was like UFC, 30, 40, 50, like that somewhat made sense because you were still very much in that time where there was not a lot of athletes for it. But like doing that in the year of our Lord fucking 2018 is insanity.
Right, and I know like women's MMA is like newer, but still, it's
Yeah.
just insane.
No, yeah. It completely insane. Like that because it was still at that point like 9 years old, 10 years old for women's MMA. Because that like Tanya's
Right.
first, not Tanya, Giannis Santos' first fight was in 2009. Tanya Evinger was all the way back in 2006. So like it had been around for a little bit, mainly on the regional scene, which is why like the talent pool was not like so big. Because like in terms of like UFC caliber, what they were looking for, and at that point they didn't have a 45 division. They only
Mm-hmm.
had the 115s and the one. I think at this point they had also had 125 and 135. Those were the weight classes, and honestly, the only reason they made the division was for Cyborg, because Cyborg was such a name in women's MMA, one of the greatest female fighters of all time. But it
Yeah, but
actually
some of
probably would
these
have
girls were
behooved.
just getting fed to her.
Oh yeah, no, it would have actually like just financially probably and just in terms of talent wise would have behooved the UFC instead of making a 145, making an atomweight 105 division. Because there is a lot more talent in that division, especially like around the world, than
Yeah,
there
but
is
at the
for a
time they were trying to do
145.
what they were trying to do. It went well for them,
Yeah,
so
I mean
for
they got their money.
they had their run.
Yeah, they got their money.
But
So
moving on, still with the women's divisions, and not even probably, but for sure the worst on this list, Valentina Shevchenko versus Priscilla Cachoeira. Valentina at the
yeah,
time was ranked number one, and Priscilla was booked for her her UFC debut against fucking Valentina.
yeah, not even number one at number one at flyweight, number one at bantamweight, where she was undersized. That's the part that should have told everyone, hey, maybe this is a bad idea. Like, because Valentina, her only losses to that point, I think, were like one that was in her like early career. Yeah, early in her career to Liz Carmouche. And then her next two in the UFC, her only loss in the UFC, Amanda fucking Nunes. Again, one of, if not the greatest female fighters of all time.
Definitely the hardest hitter.
Yeah, exactly. And just boom.
Like, yeah, there's
It
no
was.
shame to lose to Amanda, but to get
Here's
booked
your.
for your debut against Valentina is
Yeah,
crazy.
no.
And then it did not help that they had a ref that wanted to let Priscilla prove she was a warrior, because that went
Oh,
on for far too long. That first round,
good
she
old
took an
Mario
absolute
Yamasaki.
beating. I will say that the striking was, it was limited. Like, she would go for little strikes, and not little strikes, they were big, but they would be short-lived, and then she'd stop and
Yes.
kind of like hold her down, Valentina, and then like start
Mm-hmm.
striking again, hold her down. So I
Yep.
see how it was harder to stop it during the first round, but
Yes.
Valentina landed 95 significant strikes, a total of 230 strikes in the first round. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm looking
in
at
the
all
fight,
together.
but
I'm so wrong. She landed 95 in the first round though.
yeah,
It was 135 in the second round is what she
yeah.
landed. But that second round, it should have ended
Now,
so much earlier than it did.
question: how many strikes did Priscilla Cachoeira land?
2 in the first round prior to the takedown. So it was like the very beginning. After that,
Yeah,
she didn't have
0 strikes in
anything
the
for
second
her.
round, right?
0 strikes in the second round, yes.
So, you said how many total strikes did she land? 230.
230 total strikes for Valentina.
So over 100 times these strikes. That is the insane part, and that's why people were so mad at Mario Yamasaki. This is when Dana White went on his huge fucking rant about Mario Yamasaki. Was after
Yeah,
this
because
fucking
after
fight.
the first round, she was cut open. She was bleeding.
Yeah,
She looked terrible. You could tell,
which
like, her spirit was broken. I don't blame her.
it
Like, it was going horrible. Second
mhm,
round, immediately got, Valentina
take it.
got the takedown, put her in the crucifix,
Yep,
was just beating the shit out of her. Repositioned again in the crucifix, still beating the shit out of her. Then just got
yep,
in mount and just beating the shit out of her. And then
yep.
just the fucking ref wouldn't call it. And I think that Valentina was like, damn, I can't do this anymore. And just put her in
Put
the
the
rear
rear
naked
naked
choke,
choke.
and just, yeah, Priscilla ended up tapping because
Yeah,
that ref
and
wasn't stopping it.
no,
Like,
Yamasaki is notoriously one of like the worst referees. I won't say the absolute worst, but he is down there.
how
And
you
but
start out the fight, it's showing him he's throwing up the heart, like it's all
he's
love,
you
and
know
then lets absolute like destruction happen before him.
it's absolutely insane. I will say, in terms of like Brazilian MMA, a bit of a legend because he did help a lot of like the UFC with their bringing the UFC over to Brazil and all that. He is like a legend in the aspect of that and like helping Brazilian MMA really grow. But holy fuck, after the first during the first crucifix in the second round, he could have stopped the fight. He definitely
Hell
should have
yeah.
stopped it after the second one. 120% should have stopped it after getting it after she got back into full mount and started just wailing on her. Like Mario, holy fuck.
But nope. He just wanted Priscilla to have the chance to be a true
Real
warrior.
warrior. And yeah, no, Dana White ripped into Mario after this fight. Holy shit. If you have never seen that rant about Mario Yamasaki, go look it up after you finish this video because holy shit, it is insane.
Just full Dana
Old
White rant
school
mode.
like look up Dana White rants because they are some of the best eviscerations you will ever hear. Holy shit, the dude knows how to fucking eviscerate someone. But yeah, this fight should not have gone on as long as it should have, especially in the second round. The first round, because when we were watching the fight, yeah, no, it's kind of hard to stop it because it was,
Like I said, it was like
get
the
a bunch of
increments of
strikes in and
shots.
then stop and then
That was the word I was looking for. Like it was just coming in
yeah,
increments, you know? Like she was landing like
yeah,
nasty elbows, nasty shots, but then she would stop. So it's like, and
yeah,
the whole time, I mean, Priscilla wasn't doing too much, but she was like kind of like trying to pull her in and like moving around,
yeah.
So like I get how you don't stop it when it's just like, 3,
Hmm.
4 shots, stay down, 3, 4 shots, stay down.
Yeah,
But like it clearly accumulated to a lot by the end. 'Cause it was
yeah.
95 shots, like.
Like if this if by some miracle this fight had somehow gone to decision, the first two rounds were both 10-8s at the absolute worst. I would
Bruh,
almost
if they
argue
utilized, I
10-7.
was gonna say if they utilized the whole scale, it easily could 10-7, 10-6,
Like
10-5, 10 any
Jesus
number you want to
Christ.
give her because nothing
Under
happens. Like,
9. Because she did not have jack, fuck, and shit for Valentina.
at
And
all.
that
It was
is,
just sad.
it
Like
was
it's
an
not even like one of
absolute
those things where it's like, oh,
mauling.
Priscilla just, she's a bad fighter. Like she came into her debut fighting Valentina, who's a great fighter,
Yeah.
and it's just that was just sad.
I mean, she's not a bad
I
fighter.
mean, I'm not saying that her
She's
record's
not
great
the
now, but I mean, like, coming
yeah.
in like that's not
No, no,
a
no.
true like
Yeah.
show of what she can do because damn, how
No,
do you just get put
exactly.
against fucking Valentina?
Yeah,
What the
and
fuck?
like that's the thing. Like the things that we're saying. Like it's not that she's like even now. Like I'm not saying she's a bad fighter. It's just like being put up against arguably one of the most skilled female fight, hell, just skilled fighters, period. In your UFC debut, when she had how many fights in the UFC before this? Let's see. Oh, 5 fights in the UFC, fighting against people who were bigger than her in Sarah Kaufman, Amanda Nunes twice, Holly Holm, Juliana Pena. Like, Jesus Christ. And winning.
Right.
So you put her up against someone who's around her actual size, of course she was going to beat the fuck out of anyone she was fighting. Like, god damn. You had to do that to someone in their debut?
Like, it's just so crazy. It's so crazy. Because again, not a last minute fight. She's not filling in. None of that. It was just simply booked that way.
Yeah. No, it was
all you
right
can say
after,
is just what the fuck.
Yeah, it was right after her second fight with, the controversial fight with Amanda Nunes, where people thought Amanda Nunes lost to Valentina at 135 for the championship.
And they said, damn, okay, here's this girl making her debut.
Yeah, exactly. Like, holy shit, UFC, what were you doing?
Like, you didn't have nobody else? You couldn't put Priscilla against
Not a
nobody
single
else?
person? No one? Nika
Right.
Montana was already the champion. Like, they had already done the season of Tough. Why are none of them fighting her? Because then, right after she beats the fuck out of Priscilla, vacant 125 title fight against Joanna. And then has been title fights ever since.
Finally just lost it.
Yeah.
Like...
So, it's just fucked up that they put Priscilla in that just debut. Because, hell, the next person she fought, if she had actually fought Molly McCann for her debut, that actually makes sense.
Right. Because, okay, and I know she lost to Molly McCann. How long apart were the fights? How far apart?
Oh, wow. A year?
Okay, so she did take time to recover. That's good. I wasn't sure. But, like, I wonder how much that killed her confidence. You know what I mean?
No,
like, you come in, you're making your UFC debut, you're in the biggest MMA promotion, and you get your ass whooped, beat, brutally just beat the fuck up at the negligence of the ref, but like,
I mean,
just absolutely fucking dominated. And you know what I mean? Like, I can only imagine how that feels, like, finally, like, a year later, coming back and fighting again, and just, like, I bet her confidence wasn't there. If that was her debut, like, I bet she would have had a better chance of winning.
That, or if she had actually been able to make her debut against the person that was supposed to be against, which was Lauren Murphy. Which Lauren Murphy is a really good fighter, don't get me wrong. But 9-3, 8-0, that's good matchmaking with where they were at with the 125-pound division, because I don't think Lauren...
I still would have favored Molly McCann for her debut, though. Lauren Murphy, I think, would have fucked her up, too.
I mean, yeah, but, like, still...
But yeah, you're right. It's definitely for sure better than Valentina. 100%. That's not an argument.
Yes. So I understand what you're saying. It's just like, things happen, and oof.
Yeah. So
that was a rough one.
Yeah, that was horrible. That's just awful. But moving on from that, it's definitely not as bad from here, but still, it's just this poor sucker.
This poor man.
Daryl Horcher making his UFC debut against Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Oh, fuck. I feel bad for him because he had to take this fight on 9 days' notice. 9 days notice, because this was, I forget how many times. Let me make sure I have this right, because I know it was because Tony had to pull out of their fight, unfortunately, and it would have been, I think, the first time, actually. This was the first time that he had to pull out, that they had to stop the Tony Khabib fight. This was the first one. This was the seed that ended up turning into Tony and Khabib getting canceled 5 times.
This was the first one?
Yes.
Oh, man. Uh, that's a whole story in itself. But yeah.
Yeah.
So Tony had to pull out, and this man, Daryl, decided to step in.
No, sorry. Second.
Oh, okay.
The first one was the reason he took so long to come back because it was a little over a year. No, what happened? He came back. He was considering retirement because he had a rib injury. It was a little under a year, but had to come back, and then was rebooked against Tony for the second time. Gets canceled because I believe this one was Tony who had to pull out. So he had 9 days. So then on 9 days' notice, that's when Terrell Horcher had to step in. Sorry, the timeline with Tony and Habib is so fucking weird.
Like, I mean, I give him props, you know, he had a shot and he took it, but what a shot to fucking take. Like,
yeah.
Habib is a monster. We all know what he's done, and he did exactly what he always does to this guy here. Like, it's just...
Yeah, because that's what it was. After he beat RDA, had to take 2 years off. And this is the only reason Habib even took the fight. Because he had to take 2 years off. He was battling like so many different things, injury, illness, was considering retirement, comes back to fight Tony. Tony gets injured, and he's just like, literally give me a fight. I do not care. Give me a fight. They call up poor old Daryl Horcher. Hey, you want to make your UFC debut? Yeah, sure. Who am I fighting? Habib. You motherfuckers.
All right. Let's get it.
So, coming in was 12-1 at the time. Habib was, undefeated at 22-0. And he had never fought, looking at his record, he fought no one who I would consider to be at the time was UFC ready. So, this fight gets ended in the second round via ground and pound, and he had nothing for him in this fight. Like, I remember I was watching the fight, and he was defending one takedown against the cage, and I'm like, oh, see, even though, he's getting fucked up, like, he's defending this takedown, and as soon as I'm saying that, gets thrown over Habib's hip onto the ground, side control, and I'm like, well, never fucking mind.
Right. Yeah, because he went 1 for 2 takedowns in the first round.
Yep.
But so, overall, went 107 strikes to Daryl's 18. It was just, a Habib domination. The guy took a shot in the dark. Yeah. But...
He tried. He tried.
That sucks that your UFC debut is against fucking Habib. At least when it comes down to this one, it was last minute. It wasn't like they just booked it when it comes to the women's divisions, but still, it just... Yeah. That's a rough ass debut to have to make.
That really is. Like, holy shit. You are asking someone to make their debut against King. Oh.
Just fucking Habibi.
Daryl Horcher.
But in the same division, and for the same reason.
No, this one wasn't the same reason, actually.
Wasn't this last minute as well?
This one was last minute as well, but not because Habib had to pull out, funny enough.
Damn, I wish it was. Anyway.
Yeah, I know, right? It was Michael Chiesa, weirdly enough.
Well,
yeah, I know, right? Like,
I really thought that before we said that. My bad. But
no,
Lando Venata. He's last on this list because while it's crazy for his debut, he had to fight Tony Ferguson. He put on a performance. He did well, but again, short notice, getting called up like, "Hey, want to make your debut against El Kakui?" That's
ranked
crazy.
Number 3 lightweight in the world, El fucking Kakui, Tony Ferguson.
On a 7-fight win streak, Tony Ferguson, like...
Oh my god.
That's crazy, but he did really good in the first round.
He hurt Tony on multiple occasions.
He did. He dropped Tony. It was really good for him. It was way better than every single other person that we have talked about. He actually, he did really well in the first round. But round 2, Tony said, "Enough of this fucking shit."
Yep.
He just beat him up
to him.
a little bit on the feet, and took that neck home.
Yeah, he got him into a clinch, started in on a guillotine, switched it to a darce, pulls him to the ground, alligator rolls, and just is holding on to that sumbitch until he was defending it well at first, and then just he couldn't really defend it anymore. He just taps out, Tony gets the win. But god damn, how in the fuck are you gonna call up someone for number 3 ranked Tony fucking Ferguson on 2 weeks notice? You couldn't find a single ranked opponent for Tony?
That's what I'm saying. Like, yo, Habib, Tony, both of them, like, you couldn't find anybody else to fill in. But then again, looking at it, it's Habib and Tony. Nobody wants to fight them on short notice. Of course, the only people willing are the people trying to get their foot in the door. And I mean, for Lando, like I said, he lost, but he put on a show for that first round. He did really well.
No, he did. Stylistically, I loved watching that fight. Like, you know what fight it reminded me of at first? It really, like, in terms of like the styles and how they were melding, it really reminded me of Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. Like, just the styles and the way they melded together, like, and were fighting that. Throwing a bunch of spinning shit, throwing like spinning body kicks, a bunch of like just elbow, like just going at each other.
Fun. It was just a good ass fight.
But oh my god, and I mean, the 2 people right now who are still in the UFC, because Tony Evinger retired, so actually 3. No, Daryl Horcher isn't in the UFC. There are only 2 of these? No, 3. I was right. Yana Santos, formerly Yana Kunitskaya, is still in the UFC. Lando Venata, who just fought on this last card, and Priscilla Casqueda, who is fighting this next card.
Yeah.
So 3 of them are still fighting, and you know they were able to get their foot in the door. And hell,
yeah, no, like they definitely did what they had to do. Lando. By far did the best, but it's just crazy.
Debut, definitely.
It's just crazy that all of these people had to fight just some of the best at the time in their divisions.
Yeah.
For their debut.
Like, that's absolute insanity, and that's the thing. It's like, God, like the 145, like the women's 145 situations, like out of all of these fights makes the most sense because it was such a new division and there was so little talent to pull from. Valentina should have never been booked against Priscilla.
Yeah.
They could have found literally someone else, I feel like, to fight Valentina. Habib was on 9 days' notice, and not a single motherfucker wants to fight Habib on 9 days' notice unless they're getting their foot in the door.
Exactly.
No one wants to fight Tony Ferguson on 2 weeks' notice. I mean, at this point, I think most people would be like, yeah, I'll take Tony.
Yeah, most people. But
at this time, middle of his win streak, just before that, had Darst Edson Barbosa beat Josh Thompson, Gleison Tibau, Abel Trujillo, Danny Castillo. Like, his only loss in the UFC at that point was Michael Johnson.
Which we already have a video on that.
But no, like, that is, like, just no one wanted to fight him. Habib, like him and Habib, by that point, had already fallen out twice. He would then go on to beat RDA, have another fight with Habib fall out, beating Kevin Lee, and then again have another fight with Habib fall out, beats Anthony Pettis, beats Donald, has another fight with Habib that falls out, the last one finally, and now is on, like, you know, his skid. But like, before that, no one wanted to fight Tony Ferguson.
Right. Why would you?
Like, the pictures that you see of his opponents during this, like, win streak from Josh Thompson up is insane.
Yeah. Tony was just a monster. He was
a wood chipper.
El Kukui.
Like, everyone who came out of a fight with Tony Ferguson looked like they had gone through a fucking wood chipper. Like, god damn. Oh.
That shit is insane. But that wraps it
Like
up this week for What the Fuck Wednesday and these fucked up debuts.
these were truly fucked up.
Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed and have a great rest of your day.